What up, it's Shankster94, and welcome to my ultimate weapons showcase of Resident Evil Outbreak. Now, before I get into anything, just a reminder in case you missed it when you clicked. This is the prologue to the showcase, which won't include any reviewing of the game's weapons. Here you will find a brief summary of the game and how it operates relative to weapons, the hardware and software I chose to display the game, a list of all graphical enhancements that earns the game its ultimate status and visual quality, and a comprehensive walkthrough of my fine-tuned process of showcasing this game's weapons. If you wish to get to the actual start of showcasing, please proceed to part 1. Alrighty then, so Resident Evil Outbreak is yet another spin-off title in the Resident Evil game series. Just like the previous game Dead Aim, it was exclusively released for the PlayStation 2 in 2003. While the general community may look down on all the spin-offs leading up to this point in the franchise, Resident Evil Outbreak was an absolute game changer, and rather ahead of its time. This was primarily because of the fact that this was the very first Resident Evil game capable of online multiplayer. The original network servers only lasted until 2007 in the USA and 2011 in Japan, cutting this game's potential longevity short, being limited to the PS2. Then a couple years later in 2013, a fan-made Outbreak server emerged, restoring the ability to play online not only on console, but the PCSX2 emulator as well. It's currently limited, however, to the NTSC-J region, which is the Japanese version. This is the version of the game I'll ultimately be using, since multiplayer will make some parts of production easier for me, and because I believe this is the most definitive way to play Resident Evil Outbreak nowadays. So I'm really playing Biohazard Outbreak, but everything that'll be shown in this video should be applicable to all other versions as well, with the exception of damage, which I'll go into more detail later. Regardless of version and online differences, general gameplay returns to the classic tank controls and fixed camera seen in the mainline titles up to this point, while stepping up the tracking movement previously seen in Resident Evil 0 and introducing angles that follow the character. The inventory returns to the slot format, but now does not pause real-time gameplay, requiring you to be more aware when accessing it. Probably in prospect of being an online game, Resident Evil Outbreak has one of the largest rosters of playable characters, with dozens of NPC skins associated with them to further diversify gameplay. The 8 base characters all have their unique attributes and offer different playstyles. Some of them are even required to trigger special events within certain scenarios. Speaking of scenarios, this is also the first game to be broken up into multiple scenarios, instead of one linear story event. When it comes to handling weapons, there's still a minute difference between the sexes for most animations, but handgun aiming is even more distinctive amongst individual characters. So every weapon will get at least 2 perspectives during inspection, with handguns getting multiple. One element that separates Outbreak from all the rest of the series is its massive use of melee weaponry, which goes beyond just knives. The total amount of weapons this game has is much larger than any game before it, with more than half of the arsenal being melee weapons. This game also introduces a durability mechanic where weapons can break through wear and tear or by sustaining damage. Nearly all of the firearms in the game are guns that we have seen in some shape or form before in the series. Now to go over how I'm playing Outbreak and review the specs that will earn its ultimate status in my second remaking era. I am once again using the PCSX2 PS2 emulator on PC. Internal game resolution is set to 4K with a widescreen hack to fill in the black pillars of 4:3 aspect ratio without stretching the picture during real-time gameplay. Static elements such as the game menus and inventory will still be stretched, but the effect will be negligible. The final enhancement that drives the visual clarity home is of course the HD texture replacement pack being used. Like a majority of the texture mods I've used throughout the second remaking era, this pack polishes up everything rendered in 3D, including character and item models and backgrounds, while maintaining the original look and feel of the native game. Before choosing this mod, I had to make a choice on whether to use it or another HD texture pack that was made more recently and has gained some attention from much larger Resident Evil content creators. While that mod has its perks and would be interesting to experience the game with, it changes way too many elements and compromises the integrity of the game's original charm. I'll provide links to both HD mods in the descriptions of all videos making up the showcase. As for the game's frame rate, it is unfortunately locked at 30 frames per second. Now there is a 60 FPS mod out there and I tried it out, Unfortunately, it's not very stable. All it does is double the frame rate in most areas, and some animations happen at twice the speed, so it doesn't look right. So I'm going to skip out on using this mod. Now for a short recap on when I first reviewed this game's weapons over a decade ago. For those who've seen it, you'll remember that I originally combined this game and its follow-up, Outbreak File 2, into one large video, and nearly every weapon in File 1 returns in File 2. I will not be repeating this decision this time around, because in order to better follow the new showcase standards I've set for this second remaking era, it's best if I keep the games separated. Plus, some weapons change damage values between games. Back when I produced the original review, I recorded the game natively from a PS2 console in standard 4x3 format at 480p. This now obsolete video will remain on my channel just for your information. So now to walk you through my strategic formula for showcasing this complex game's weapons, incorporating footage from my original review. First, I'll sort the weapons into categories in a rough order of power. If there are multiple weapons in a category, which is basically all of them in this game, then they'll also be ordered by power. Usually I would go in order of obtaining the weapon in game, but since Outbreak is divided into scenarios and certain weapons can only be found in specific ones, I figured power would be a better order in this case. Resident Evil Outbreak has over 20 melee weapons that are sorted into knives, sprays, poking and swinging objects, and throwable projectiles. On the firearm side, we've got the usual 9mm pistols, an assault rifle, one shotgun, a couple magnums, explosive launchers, and one special weapon. I'll begin showcasing by overviewing each weapon in the inventory. Just like Dead Aim, there is no examine or check function for items, so the item icon and description are automatically visible at the bottom of the screen. When going over the first firearm of its respective class, I'll check out the ammunition it uses before proceeding to the weapon itself. If the gun has had any appearance in the series in whole or significant part prior to the current game, I'll mention each and every one. Afterwards, I'll show an image of the weapon's real-life counterpart or inspirations if applicable. As a regular disclaimer for all of my weapon showcases, I get my real-life sources from the Internet Movie Firearms Database, which is an online weapon wiki for the entertainment industry whose pages can be edited by anybody with an account, which harbors the risk of falsities when stating the real-life versions of game weapons. People who are cultured in weaponry may feel pressed to speak out their disagreements, but once the video is uploaded, I can't reasonably do anything beyond revising the video description. After the in-real-life mention, it'll be time to show the weapon locations. Now, one of the things that makes Outbreak so complex is the sheer number of different locations for most of the weapons. Some weapons have multiple fixed points within scenarios, and not only is their placement dependent on scenario, but the difficulty mode as well. With 5 scenarios and 4 difficulty modes, my original plan to show every possible location in-game would have required 20 scenario playthroughs, which is overkill. So after consulting with my community, I've ultimately decided to simply edit in screenshots from the Evil Resource website, mapping out all of the possible weapon locations. On that subject, I give many thanks to Evil Resource for granting permission to use their resources and for all of the information they've provided over the years, as it has given so much valuable information on the Resident Evil games and assisted me in a majority of my showcases. For any weapon location that is found in all difficulties, I will show in-game footage, as these are places you are more likely to find the weapon regardless of circumstance. For weapons that don't have a fixed location regardless of difficulty, I will choose one location to show footage of, likely one that is found in more than one difficulty or requires special circumstances to find. There are no unlockable weapons in Resident Evil Outbreak, but there is an unlockable mode called Infinity Mode, which makes all melee weapons unbreakable and firearms have infinite ammo. This mode is unlocked by completing all scenarios with a 100% event checklist and then purchasing the mode from the collection menu for 50,000 points. I will have to use this mode especially for the melee weapons to provide adequate enemy tests. One last detail about locations, they will only apply to single play offline. Network play online has an RNG effect on numerous weapon spawns and loses consistency, so I won't be mentioning online locations. After the location bit is over with, it will be time to demonstrate the weapon's functionality. I'll begin by showing all unique character idle stances with the weapon equipped. I prefer to use well-lit areas free from enemies with close-up camera angles to get a detailed look at the weapon. These areas for weapon inspection are what I call hubs, which in this game there will be several because of the placement of certain weapons. While testing the weapon out, I will add motion effects including slow-mo, reverse, and speed-ups depending on the weapon. Once a firearm is unloaded, I will perform the reload animation. I will then repeat the test with the opposite sex or all other characters with unique aiming stances. After test firing is finished, I will then proceed into enemy territory to witness the weapon's power. I will use the same set of enemies for all weapons of a particular class, starting with zombies for most of the melee and some of the weaker firearms, then stronger enemies as the firepower starts racking up. Now, I have an ace up my sleeve when it comes to the statistics of weapons and enemies, and that is the Outbreak Tracker. This installable executable tracks the status of a match and provides in-depth statistical values of nearly everything within, including enemy HP and exactly how much gets taken away when hit with any weapon. This means, against my usual standards, I could actually get detailed analyses and determine with near perfect accuracy how many hits or shots it'd take with any weapon against any enemy. This won't really change how I depict the weapons being used on enemies, it just provides valuable information for cases where averages seem inconsistent or a full weapon test may not be possible. Now, what I want to emphasize when it comes to damage is the fact that there are indeed differences between versions of the game. So when it comes to the enemy tests I perform, those will only specifically apply to the Japanese version that I'm playing. So I'm afraid those that play the North American or the European versions will have to find their own damage rates. Again though, ultimately, damage doesn't matter. The point of the showcase is to just show you the weapons of the game, and that does apply across all versions. After evaluating the results of the enemy test and averaging the shot amount, I will declare the current weapon concluded, and then share in-game cutscenes of the weapon being handled in any way beyond simply holding it. This will transition into the next weapon of the lineup, and the process will repeat. At the end of the showcase, when all weapons have been shown, I'll add the total number to the accumulative weapon count of the series up to that point, and then announce the next game in the series to get the ultimate treatment, which will obviously be Outbreak File number 2. So that shall conclude this lengthy prologue. I hope you find all of this information useful, and I hope you are prepared to witness one of the largest and most innovative weapon showcases to date. I shall see you over in part 1. Peace out.